Hello and welcome to another video. In today's episode I was planning to do like a video based on both just talking about my rsync backup script and describing its operation, and I was also planning to automate this script, but during recording this video it started to get really long, and in the meantime I realized that the automation part with systemd is probably better to serve as like a separate video, because I guess a lot of people might be interested in how to do some very basic automation tasks with systemd but don't want to listen to my 30-minute rant on my backup script. So now I'm recording this introduction again, and so this video will only be about my backup script, and I am still working on the second part, which will be released soon, on writing the unit files for automating that script. So let's take a look at what is going to be on the menu today. This is my script. It's a little long. It is based on a script I found at the ArchWiki, and it was inspired by the kind of this time shift procedure where you have your backups based on dates. So you have some daily backups, some weekly backups, and some monthly backups, and you limit the numbers based on these time intervals. So in the header or the stop part of this script, I have these two functions, a remove function and a move and remove function. We will discuss these later, but first let's try to find the beginning of this. So these are still part of these functions. So here is actually where the script starts. So I define an src variable which will be the source of the backup. So for the full system backup, of course, you need to use just this slash character, or you can use, like, I have a lot of comments here, so if you add the trailing slash for the directory name that you give here, that will be backed up without, so the contents will be backed up but the directory itself will not be moved. This is based on how rsync handles things, and so there is this bckp variable here which I use to define the target. So I have like this slash media slash data slash backup directory, because so if you want to have like a meaningful backup of your data, that data should be at least on a different partition that your system is on. So, you know, if accidentally you delete your partition, then you still have your data on other partition, but the more ideal case is on a separate drive. So in my case I have two drives in this computer, an SSD and an HDD, and basically every important thing is on the SSD, but I use the HDD as kind of like the bigger storage, because like SSDs are, you know, more expensive if you look at like the same storage capacity as the HDDs. So I also have an HDD inside this machine, and the backup script basically backs up to that HDD. So even, you know, if one of your drives, if your main drives just gives up and dies, it's a better idea to have your regular backups on a other physical drive that's in your computer. Of course, you should have backups that are on disks that are not connected to your computer all the time, like removable drives. But using removable drives, it's a little more difficult to handle. Like, you should not. I don't think it's easy to make like a backup script. Maybe you can do a backup script that always runs whenever you mount a specific drive. So you just mount the new system and there is some kind of script that will just run the backup that time. But in that case, I just usually use some very simple manual backups for that purpose with the removable drive backups. Anyways, so this way you can probably you modify the script to do that too. So I have like a very long exclude array here. So this is basically containing all the directories that should not be backed up. So in the case of our full system backup, which is this script is based on, it excludes the /dev, the /proc, the /sys, the /tmp, run, mnt, media, lost plus found, and the home directories. So this dev contains the devices, proc is the running processes. I'm not 100% sure, this skips my mind what is in sys, but tmp is in Arch Linux a virtual drive, it's a RAM drive, it's not really even on your disk, it's in your memory. Run contains information about some running processes, like, or is that the proc? Anyways, so these also not real files in that sense. mnt contains like mounted drives, and media also contains mounted drives. So these have a little different purpose, but anyways, lost and found is kind of the ext4 file system's place for files that have been kind of lost during some faulty operation, and then the check disk finds those lost informations and puts them in this lost and found folder. And see that I do not back up the home directory using this main setup. I also define what is a week, what is a month, and I also define how many daily, weekly, and monthly backups I would like to keep. So it means that if today is Sunday, for example, so I will keep the today's backup like the Sunday backup, and if I did like a Saturday and a Friday backups, then I will keep those two as well. And then in this case, weekly, I will have a backup from last week, and I will have a backup from 2 weeks before. And in a monthly case, I will have one from last month, and the month before, and the month before that. So I will describe how it is working, but basically this is the base case. I also define some paths here, so this script can be run in a way that just creates a custom backup with a custom name, and that will be placed in the manual directory. It can put like one in the daily, in the weekly, and monthly directory. So these are the directory names. So the daily backup will be in the daily, in this directory, which is defined in the daily p variable, and the weekly backups will be in the directory here, etc. And there is a logs p, which is the directory name for the log files, because I am going to save some log files here. Okay, so this is another thing here. So I wrote this script with some kind of customization in mind. So if you want to use this script, and maybe I will put it in the AUR sometime or whatever, and this script will be used by some other people who does not want to modify the script itself, there is this option here. So if this file exists in your etc/nmbckp/wars directory, or no, this is a file name, so wars file exists. If this file exists in the nmbk in this directory, then it will just basically run this file. So you can use this to modify some of these variables. So maybe you want to have 3 weekly and only 2 daily, but you want to keep like 6 monthly backups for some reason. Maybe, you know, you have a lot of files that are changing a lot, and maybe, yeah, I don't know, there can be a reason why you want to look up like the 6 months before version of that file. So this is basically running every time. So these kind of things can be changed, and this will affect every user on your computer. But I also included this part where we source a config file from the users directory. So if you are using it running this script not as the super user, but you run it as like just a regular user, you can source some other files. So it will check if this xdg config home directory exists, and if this directory exists, then it will use this vars file. This is vars because it's like intended to contain a script that changes the variables. So I have this file on my computer. So here is my file which contains my variables. So when I run this script as me, as the NiceMicro user, then it will change this exclude array to this array we can see here. So it excludes the desktop downloads, music, pictures, public, etc. These are excluded from the backup, and the source will be my home directory, of course. So these are just directories inside my home directory, because this slash here will be understood by rsync as related to this source directory, which will give rsync, and this will be the backup directory. So this will be /media/data/nicemicro/backup. And what's the difference here is that this backup directory, so this NiceMicro directory or nicemicro/backup at least, should have the proper owner and group and the permissions for me to be able to save my backups in this directory, while when I use the script as the root, of course these variables won't be, so this script won't be called, so these variables will not be changed, and the original variables will be used. And that case, because it's run by root, it's enough if the root has access to those directories. So this is how this script differentiates between users. So each user can have their own variables, and when they run this script, those variables will be loaded by running these scripts. And so of course the root or the system administrator can change this in this file, which will apply to everyone. Okay, so let's do this part. So this part in this script basically just checks if all these subdirectories defined in these variables, which we defined these path variables for path. So these are subdirectories inside the backup directory. And so if these do not exist, or there are no directories with these names, this one checks if there is no directory with this name. So this is the check for the directory with this. What is this? The exclamation mark is saying that not -d says directory. So not is if this is not a directory, then make the directory, make this directory, and this test there will just basically, once it will be this directory, next it will be this. So this just goes through these 5 directories and makes them if they do not exist. This script can be called with a parameter, or 2 parameters rather, and if we call the script with 1 parameter, then the folder it will save, the backup will be named based on this parameter, the first parameter that we ran this script with. So the first parameter is not empty, and it will use this manual subdirectory that we defined here, as this manual subdirectory will be used, and the name of the backup will be what we gave in the first parameter. If there is no parameter given, then it will just save in the backup in the daily directory. So this will be a new daily backup. And what will happen here is that we will check with this find command if there is a directory in this folder. So is there any directory in the daily backups? So max and minimum depth is 1, so we will not check subdirectories. Only type -d is just only check directories. -c time -1 will mean that that has been created in the last 1 day. And well, this printf is just gives us how we want to get, what kind of format we want these folder names with, and this will just give like A is like all, and we'll just count the what is in this with this wc. So this is piped to this wc command that will count is basically what we got there. And so if this, and this result will be put in this today variable. So you can see that this is like a comment substitution here with this $sign and parentheses. So this result of this command of this find piped into the word count will be a number, and if it's 0, if it's greater than 0, so there has been a backup created in the last 24 hours, then the script will exit. So we don't want to make new backups if this backup have been made in the last 24 hours. And the name of this new backup, if we have to make a new backup, then the name will be based on the date with year, month, day, and hour, minute. Okay, we will specify next the log file name using this. So we have the backup directory, the subdirectory for the log files, and the log file will have the same name as the backup directory. We will just give this .log at the end. And then if there is a second, so if we run the script with one parameter and we add the second one parameter, we can use this second parameter to specify which backup we want to compare our new backup to. So basically what rsync can do is that it will copy the files from one place to another, and we can specify a third place as like a comparison. And if the backup file is from the original source, the file is the same as we have in this comparison folder, then the new one, it won't be copied from the original. We will just make a hard link which will link to the file from this third source. So that's the link destination will be. And if we don't specify that, it will just use this last directory, which is this is the name of the directory last. This will be something we will be talking about later. Next, we specify this OPTS variable. This is basically the variable that contains the rsync options. So I put this here because I don't want the user to be able to change this. So even if the user changes it in their own, like a small script here, this will be just overwritten here. I don't want the user to have control over the rsync parameters for some reason. And this is basically means that we will have a recursive copy. So we copy all directories and the directories inside those directories. We are going to preserve symlinks, symbolic links. We preserve the permissions and times like read, write, execute permissions, and times like creation times, modification times, etc. We will preserve the group and the owner of the files. We will preserve special devices as they are. We preserve ACLs, extended attributes. We will output a change summary, which we will use. This output we will be using for logging the process of the update, or the backup rather. So this output summary will be used in the log file. And we will keep the hard links as hard links if possible. So we will also have this link. So this is what I talked about. So this last variable will be used as the link, kind of the wow, this should be a G here. So if we check if there is anything to link to, and we will just specify this last. So this is the name of this linked previous backup. It's the previous backup basically that we compare our current backup to, and this will be given to rsync using this link dest parameter here. Now we are going to run rsync. So first we will write this kind of running rsync and this rsync command. So this is the rsync command that we will be running there, but we just output this line to the log file. So the log file, the first line in the log file will contain the exact command that we are going to run. Next, we echo the same thing to our screen. So when you run this script, the script will give you the exact rsync command that is running. And then we will run the exact rsync command. So this one is the options that we gave here, this variable. This is the exclude. So here, what we are going to do is So the exclude variable is an array, so we have multiple names of multiple directories in this exclude array, and this little trick here, which is kind of a bash trick, I guess, is that you can use this hash symbol and this kind of, and just give it a string here. So every element of this array, so if we go back here, we can see so /dev, for example, and this is another element, and this is another element. This all will be prepended by the -- exclude equals. So what rsync will get is the -- exclude equals /dev /asterisk, and then exclude /pros /asterisk, etc., etc. And so here, well, I have to say, which I didn't say, I think, is that this slash here, when it's interpreted by rsync, it is not going to be interpreted as the root. It will be interpreted as like a directory inside your source directory. So you have to give this slash even in your when you are backupping your home directory. So if I just go back to my previous, so my personal file here. So in this, my personal variables, you can see it's also started with this slash downloads and stuff like that, and /music, and because this is interpreted as relative to this source directory. So source directory here is the home directory, and this is directories inside the home directory. So these will be prepended by this -- exclude command, or -- exclude string when we give it to rsync. So rsync will just get like, okay, so this is the options, or these are the options I should be running with. These are the excluded directories one by one. So it's basically breaks down to one by one. And then this is the link directory that I should compare this backup to. This is the source directory where everything is residing. So this is like the root of the backup directory, and this is the target directory. And so this rsync, based on this -i switch here, will output a lot of information, and we just redirect all this information into the log file. And then, so this is like the OR. So if this whole rsync command, there will be some problem, then this will give us some error code, and in that case we will echo rsync failed. So rsync failed into our log file. If this runs successfully, then this second part will be ignored and this will not run. Okay, next part just removes the links to the last one. So basically we talked about this this last, which we compare our file or our backup to, and this will just remove the link. This if there is like a symbolic link there, the symbolic link will be removed. So let's check what these things do. These basically move around backups from one. So this one moves from the weekly backups to the monthly backups if they need to, and this will move daily backups to the weekly backups if we need to. But to simplify this, I just wrote this move and remove function here. So this is the move and remove function. This function checks if the youngest backup in the primary folder is too old, and if yes, moves the oldest from the secondary folder here. Then checks if there are too many backups, and if yes, this is the oldest. So what is exactly it does? It does is that it's basically, I based it on some Stack Overflow things. So what will this one do is, if we give it the monthly and the weekly backups, for example, it will check the monthly backups. If the youngest, so how old is my youngest monthly backup, and it's too old, then I move the oldest backup from the weekly into the monthly, and then I will check if I have more backups in my monthly backup than how much I want to, and if it is true, then I will remove the oldest monthly backup. So what we're doing here is we create these new files, and the count variables is 0, so we will basically read the read the result of this find function here. So what does this find do? It will check only the directories right inside the backup, so the maximum depth is 1, the minimum depth is also 1, so just the directories. So maybe I should just, maybe it's much easier for you to see if so if you can see in my file manager here, let me move my face down there. So I have the monthly and like these weekly backups, for example. And what we'll be doing here is so there is this weekly directory, and we will check only one directory deep. So I don't want to see the directories inside this. I just want to go check these 3 directories, for example. That's what the max depth and min depth mean in this context. The type D will only concern the directories. C time is just files that are only modified in the previous n days. So this is the third option that we give to this function, and if you can remember here, then this is going to be the third option is month or week, which means what is month? How many days are in the month? So it's like 30. You can see the month is 30, week is 7. So let's get back here. So this will, in the month case, it will be 30. In the week case, it will be 7. So it will only check the ones that have been modified in the last 7 days or the last 30 days. And it will just list the file names with 0 termination. So basically, this will use this ASCII character, which is coded as 0, as the terminator character, not space or enter or something, because those characters, believe it or not, the line break character can be inside file names in Linux, such as space and stuff like that. So that's why we use this character for separating the strings from each other of these file names, and this will be read by this read command here. So it will be using the backslash characters as characters. It will not be, backslash characters will not be used as escape characters, if you know what it means. Dash D will mean, it will just check that, okay, we are using a 0 or a null separated a list of strings, and reply will be the default variable that the read commands read into. And so we are just basically checking all these files that have been modified in the last 30 or last 7 days in the folder that is given here in the first variable. So for example, we'll check in the weekly which are the directories that have been changed in the last 7 days, or we'll check in the monthly which have been changed in the last 30 days. And that will be our list. And so if there is no backup that is younger than the limit, so if we find no backups that have been less than 30 years or 30 days old in the monthly backup, so then we just find the oldest one in the weekly and then put it in the monthly instead. So what is it doing? So we can see here from this kind of description what exactly is this all about. It's a very similar, but we have a lot of line breaks here that will probably make it a lot more difficult for you to read these lines. Anyways, what we're doing here is basically check if this is 0. So if it is 0, that means that we didn't find any backup that was younger than the limit. So we will do this. We will find the oldest in the other directory. So in this other directory, we are going to check for the oldest, and we use this find command similarly as we did before, but in this case we are looking for the older file or every file. We don't specify what is it modified, and then we sort them by their modification date and just get the first one and just get only the file name. Okay, so once again, this will find all the directories in that subdirectory, but only the exactly the directories that are in that directory but not below there. It will sort them by their modification date. We'll get only the first line of that, so only the oldest one, and we'll remove all other data. We'll only have the file name, and then it will be say there is no backup younger, so we are moving the oldest from there. So there is no backup that was younger than 30 days in the monthly directory, so we are moving the oldest from the weekly, and we'll write it into the log file, and we will just move that directory from here to there and just give the results in the log file. Okay, so that was kind of complicated, I guess. And then what we do is run the remove script. So we will check, are there more files in this, or more directories, more backed up directories in this directory, so in our example case, do we have more monthly backups than we have the limit of monthly backups? And if yes, similarly we will find the oldest backup from there and then just remove the oldest backup. Yeah, this is, I guess you are wondering how I came up with this. Well, I read a lot of Stack Exchange. I read a lot from the internet. So this is basically a very similar way how TimeShift, well, probably TimeShift uses another method to find exactly how to, like, moving around all these previous backups, but the concept is the same as TimeShift. So we have a set number of weekly, monthly, and daily backups, and we use these two. So we call this move and remove twice, once with checking the monthly and transferring from the weekly, and then checking the weekly and transferring from the daily. And then what we do in the next is just we go through all these directories and looking for the basically the newest backup, because now what we did is we moved around a lot of backups, so it is possible that the newest backup we have just performed is not in the same directory where we backed it up because we moved it away. Maybe we only had one, so maybe you just started working with this backup strategy and you have no backups. So what does happen? What happens is, like, your backup gets saved to the daily. It will check, wow, the monthly is empty. Oh, but the weekly is also empty, so there's nothing I can do. Then goes to the weekly and checks, oh, the weekly is empty, but we have one backup in the daily. So we'll move the daily backup to the weekly directory, and now you will have to find, like, where is the latest one, and the latest one is going to be in the weekly, so we will find it there. And, well, yeah, it will just find based on the name. So the script knows what was the name, so this backup is that we just made have been moved to the weekly, so this is going to be the latest backup. If it has been moved to the monthly for some reason, then this is what will be used, and if it was wherever just saved, so either to the manual or to the daily, this folder directory will be working for both of them, then it will be the latest directory. And if we cannot find anything there, then it will just try to find the newest backup based on this this part here, and then what happens is we will create a symbolic link to the latest backup here. We will, just using this ln-s command. So we found the latest backup, and this will be symlinked to this backup/last. So if I go back to my file manager here, you can see that there is this last directory. This is the same as the newest backup that have been made. And then this is the last thing it will do is just check if do we have too many daily backups, and if yes, then it will remove the oldest daily backup. So that is going to be the last step, because what we don't want is that just move the daily backup to the or just delete one from the daily because we have too many daily backups, and then realize that the weekly backups are we don't have recent weekly backup, the weekly backups are too old, and just move the oldest daily backup to the weeklies, and then we have one less daily backups than we wanted to. So this is why we are keeping as many of these backups as possible, ideally. And so this is the script. I guess it took a long time to explain every facet of it, and so it's time for me to try to create an automation. So this script will be run every time I boot up the system, and so because this script already takes care of whether I have a recent backup or not, it will check that already, so I don't need to care about automating it. So I am just planning to make a systemd service file, so I can just run this command whenever I want to, or rather whenever it's appropriate for it to run. And so if you are interested in that, then there will be a new video released for the systemd service files and how to write them. And if you found this video useful, then leave a comment if you have any questions about this script. Also, you can ask me in the comments. You can find the link to my GitLab repository, which contains this script, in the description. If you found this video useful, give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you are interested in this kind of deep dive style tutorials into Linux, free software, and much more. And I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.